Almost every culture and religion today account that there is life after death. From Islam to Hinduism to mainstream Christianity and the countless others, we find a common denominator: the belief in the immortal soul. A belief so engraved in the human conscience that society itself, apart from religion, has faceted this dogma. But is it really dogma, or is it deception? Can we deserve ourselves the privilege to question the norm outside the factions? Can we afford to be divergent? Satan and the duplicity of death. And the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field, which Yahuwah Elohim had made. And he said to the woman,
"Is it true that Elohim has said, 'Do not eat of every tree of the garden'?"
We are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim has said, "Do not eat of it, nor touch it, lest you die."
And he said to the woman,
"You shall not surely die, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil."
Genesis chapter 3, 1 through 5. This lie, spoken by Lucifer, the devil himself, was the first and most influential deceptions of its kind. Little did Eve know of how crafty the serpent beguiled her into rebellion, and Adam's willingness to partake too only helped lead the future of humanity deeper in today's embedded curse. The statement that sin and/or disobedience toward Yahuwah would not bring about death was contrary to the very command he gave them in the beginning. Death was and would be the result of sin. But with that being said, why was it so important for the devil to lie to Eve about death? In order to understand the ingenuity of Satan and the duplicity of death, we must first examine what the scriptures teach in regard to the state of the dead. How exactly did we come about in the first place? And Yahuwah Elohim formed the man out of the dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils breath of life. And the man became a living being. Genesis 2:7. In the beginning, at a time we can grasp as beginning, Yahuwah Elohim made us from the dust of the ground. What happens the moment a person dies? And the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to Elohim who gave it. Ecclesiastes 12:7. You hide your face, they are alarmed. You take away their breath, they die and return to their dust. You send forth your ruach, they are created. Psalms 104, 29 and 30. The spirit of every individual, whether righteous or wicked in the sight of Elohim, returns to him at death, and the body turns to dust once again. Death is merely the opposite of creation. How does the scriptures define the spirit that returns to Yahuwah at death? As long as my breath is in me, and the spirit of Eloah in my nostrils. Job 27:3. For as the body without the spirit is dead, so also the belief is dead without the works. James 2:26. As read from Job, the term spirit is defined as his own breath, which Elohim gave him. And it is that breath of life that returns to Elohim at death. James uses the same biblical teaching of old, using both of those components to illustrate faith and works
and the role they play in our sanctification. The root word for spirit in the Greek is pneuma and is synonymous for breath or air. Thus, we can conclusively come to an understanding what these writers convey when they employ the word spirit.
This leads us to question number 4. What is a soul? With just a quick reflection back at the Genesis 2:7 account, it should start becoming evident of what constitutes a soul. A soul is simply a living being, and a combination of two things: body or dust plus spirit or breath equals a living soul. A soul cannot exist without both of these two factors combined. Yahuwah's word teaches us that we are souls. This debunks the popular misconception that a soul is some disembodied spirit roaming about, because it takes both a body and a breath of life to make a living being. So what then? Do souls die? The soul that sinneth, it shall die. Ezekiel 18:20. Every living soul died in the sea. Revelation 16:3. There is no man that sinneth not. 1 Kings 8:46. Every man has sinned, and every man is appointed the portion of death. This is a consequence we all have to face, but we have that admonition to teach us sound wisdom. Souls do die, and we are living, breathing souls subject to death. Man is mortal and finite, while Yahuwah, He is immortal and infinite. So the concept of an undying, immortal soul is scripturally inaccurate and false. But what about good people? Do they go to heaven when they die? Let's look at a man after Yahuwah's own heart, a poet, a patriarch, and a warrior. David is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. For David is not ascended into the heavens. Acts 2:29 and 34. Even the suffering Job knew what takes place after death, when he said, "The grave is mine house." Job 17:13. Furthermore, we read in Yohanan, or John, chapter 5, 28 and 29, that all that are in the graves shall hear his voice, and shall come forth. This cannot be any more clear. No, good people do not go to heaven when they die, nor are sinners cast in hell. Everyone goes to their graves to await judgment and resurrection day. The scriptures prove continuously without refute that death is an unconscious state of sleep. In fact, it is noted over 53 times how death is compared to sleep. There is nothing that the dead know or comprehend in the grave, nor is there any communication between the living and the dead. All thoughts cease, all intentions, and all emotions. Just as we sleep every day of our lives, we become totally unconscious with no activity or knowledge of anything. And so is the same with the dead now. Yet they wait until the end of the world, when the great judge stands to judge the earth. Everything we have studied thus far is a dual process of unlearning and learning. The living word of Yahuwah is sharper than any two-edged sword. And by our willingness to partake in the truth, enables us to discern the wiles of Satan, yet stand guard to defend our faith. Now it has been revealed what his word confirms as the state of the dead, dividing truth from error. But the question still remains: why did the devil lie to Eve about death? Why? We must understand this. Those who believe the dead or alive become vulnerable and easy targets for Satan's deceptions. The scriptures tell many stories that in ancient times how Satan has worked powerful miracles through people who affirm to receive their power from the spirits of the dead. From the magicians of Egypt
to the Witch of Endor, and even the sorcerers in Daniel's time. This is none other than sorcery and a supernatural agency to deceive billions. That is why the devil lied to Eve about death. How Satan has attempted to replace the infinite value of Yahuwah's truth and the worship due to him by infiltrating it with his demoralizing lies, teaching that the dead are alive. And to further perpetuate his inventions, he has used mankind to create reincarnation, channeling, communication with spirits, spirit worship, the New Age movement, and any other philosophy of teaching the soul is immortal. This deadly cornerstone of his principality will be the same means he will exercise without rest to perform powerful working miracles in the end times right before the second coming of the Messiah. Almost half of the world now believe in reincarnation. Mainstream Christianity is no different, following in the footsteps of its harlot parent Catholicism, which teaches the doctrine of the immortal soul. Yet this is not what the Bible teaches. Even the broadcasts we see on film and TV today instill the same lie repeated over and over again continuously in the mind of billions. Do not be deceived. The time of awakening is now. Our redemption draws near. Immortality is a gift of Yahuwah given through the Messiah at his second coming to all those who have loved and trusted in him. He is faithful who has promised. I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death. O death, I will be thy plagues. O grave, I will be thy destruction.